Hello there. I'm Danny Gregory from Sketchbook School, and I am here to draw with thee on this sunny Thursday afternoon here in New York City. It is very, very cold outside, and I'm glad to be inside in my lair drawing with you. It's a great day for drawing, and it's been way too long. I have, between the holidays and various trips I've had to take, it has been a long time since I've drawn with you, and it's been a relatively long time since I've drawn with me too, actually, because I have, I've fallen out of the habit a little bit. Maybe that happens to you sometimes, where you kind of forget how much you love to draw. And drawing, is a very relaxing, fun thing to do that sometimes we just forget to do, and we forget, I don't know, what it takes. And sometimes there's a certain kind of hump you have to get overcome that inertia and get back into it. So hopefully this event of drawing with me today will be the icebreaker that will get you going, and maybe that's why you're here. Maybe you're looking for some motivation to get back into it. Today is December 12th, so it's 12/12/2019, and it's an opportunity to celebrate some birthdays of people who were born on December 12th. And I have assembled a few people who I thought would be fun to draw, because it's fun to draw people who you sort of know what they look like but don't necessarily know that well. So we're going to focus on doing that, and we're going to draw from photographs. So I hope that's okay with you. I don't have a lot of birthday people in my room here today, but I have some pictures of them. Now, I mislabeled this particular session Birthday Boys, thinking initially that all I had were famous men who were born on December 12th. But I did some more digging, and I found one woman as well. So we're going to draw 3 men and a woman, and try some different things. We're going to do them relatively quickly. We're not going to spend an enormous amount of time on them. You're free, of course, to continue drawing after we're done here, but we'll try and limit it to about half an hour of drawing together, and just get the old machinery turning, and get the works done. So what I suggest is hopefully you have your sketchbook, you have a pen, and I will provide a little photograph of each person we're going to draw. I'll put it up on screen so you can look at the drawing that I'm doing, you can look at the photograph, and you can see a tiny version of me as well. But in the meantime, if you want to, you can always go off and Google your own picture and fill your screen with that, however you'd like to handle this. But the main thing is to do some drawing. You could also draw somebody else, or draw somebody who was born on another day. The main thing is, let's draw. I see a few people have friends and relatives who were also born on December 12th. It's nice to have a birthday that has that sort of pattern to it, 12/12. So, good. Well, thank you all for being here today. Now, I wanted to tell you something else. So, I was visiting my son in Los Angeles last week, and he's just come back from a trip to Japan. And he went to a bunch of different places in Japan, and he discovered a place that makes... Can you see this? Let me see if my focus will be on it. Okay, this is a tiny sketchbook. This is a tiny accordion sketchbook. And I've been drawing in this tiny sketchbook. I've been drawing on it with this pen, which is a Micron 005. So it's the narrowest micron, and you will see, I'm going to switch to my other camera so you can see what that looks like. Let's have a look from my other camera. Here we go. So, here it is. This is my tiny sketchbook. It's pretty cute, and it is an accordion sketchbook, so you can stretch it out. And I've been doing some drawings in it, little tiny drawings drawing of a teacup, drawing of me getting my hair cut, doing a lot of writing in it as well. I like to write in my sketchbook, but today we are going to, or at least you can work on any size thing you want to. But so anyway, the first person who I think we're going to draw is this person, Gustave Flaubert. Flaubert, of course, wrote Madame Bovary. And I'm not drawing him because he wrote Madame Bovary, because that was a great accomplishment. I'm sure other people have drawn him better than I have. But I'm drawing him because he is kind of cool looking. I like this sort of giant head that he has, giant forehead. He has a very kind of square, kind of bulldog-like face. And yeah, let's just get into drawing him. You know, I'm working with this tiny pen, which works. I don't know if you ever have this experience, but I really like changing up my pen periodically. You know, fall in love with a certain kind of pen. But every so often I'll get into this mode where I really want to draw with a super fine pen. You know, it just allows you a sense of control. I think that's partly what it is. I think it's a desire to have control over my drawing, if nothing else. And so this kind of really teeny tiny, super fine pen with lots and lots of lines is quite satisfying when it comes to that. And you know, I'll do this for a while, and then I'll say, what am I drawing with this horrible tiny pen for? And I will suddenly go off and get myself like a big brush marker or a brush pen or some kind of a giant, thick, you know, like a very thick and squidgy sort of pen instead. Gustave Flaubert. I don't know the actual years of Flaubert's presence on this earth. I mean, I know I've read Madame Bovary. It's one of my wife's favorite books. I kind of liked it. I don't know how you feel about it, but for me it certainly has some dramatic moments to it. It's a tragic story, of course. I think it ends in suicide, doesn't it? As I seem to remember. It's been a while since I read it. But Flaubert. I wasn't an English major. I don't really know that much about him. But clearly he lived in a time when photography had begun, so this looks like a picture that was probably taken in, what do you think, 1870s maybe? Maybe later? Judging by this giant mustache, walrus mustache. There's another term for a mustache like this. Is it a soup drainer? Soup sieve? Something to do with soup. Because I guess you can use it to use soup to moisten this giant walrus mustache you have. The nice thing about this little tiny sketchbook is I literally always have it with me. And sometimes I can't even find it in my pocket. I carry it in my pocket, and sometimes I'm sort of forced to ferret around in there to pull it out. So I can carry this. It's sometimes weird to draw with it in public, honestly, because it is so small. It's sort of like, what am I doing with it? Oh, I held it in my hand. You know, it's like you can barely see it. And it looks like I'm taking notes or something. move this up a bit. Getting in my face. There you go. So if anybody knows anything about Flaubert, please share it here in the comments section. So it'll be kind of like a drawing club and a book club in one. That would be pretty cool. Sketch and book club, sketchbook club. Speaking of sketchbook club, I don't know if you ever saw this series of videos that I was making. I made about, I don't know, 40 or more of those that were about different books that I liked, that were about sketchbooks, various kind of published sketchbooks. I need to get back to that. I was looking at my shelf this morning and I see I have a huge backlog of books I've been accumulating that would probably be appropriate. So, that's pretty good. It's funny because the version that you're seeing of this book, because of the giant magnifying camera, it's actually much bigger than what I'm seeing. Because as you can see, this is a very small sketchbook. So, all right. So there's Flaubert, and I think I'm going to move on. Hopefully you're ready to change too. Let's move on to somebody else. Balk, if you have a problem with that. Soup strainer. Yes, thanks, Russ. Russ Petkoff pointed out soup strainer. I knew it was something like that. Okay, let's move on to another birthday person. Right? It's not a boy. I mean, Flaubert. Who would call him a boy? Okay, so I'm going to do these sort of in chronological order. I think this is the next person. Edward G. Robinson. Now, hopefully you know who he is or was. He was an actor. He was sort of a kind of film noirish era. He was not born in America. I forget where he was born. Somewhere in Eastern Europe. And he often played the tough guy. And as you can tell from this picture, kind of stern. For some reason I've started in a very weird place drawing him, but the nice thing about an accordion book is if you run out of paper, suddenly you have more. So I have room to stretch it out and to get in there and make sure I get the whole page in there. I think I'm going to draw him in a kind of looser way. That's another thing about this pen, is it tends to make me draw really tightly. And you can't be sort of gestural in your drawing. You have to stick with this kind of certain style, certain approach. Try and loosen it up, but I feel myself tightening up again. But he has a nice boxy face. Kind of glowering look on his face. I don't know that much about Edward G. Robinson the man. I know that he was kind of a big art collector. It seemed to me there was some sort of scandal around his art collecting. Maybe it wasn't a scandal, but he was, I think maybe he got divorced or something, and he had to liquidate his entire collection. I just remember there being sort of a relatively famous sale of his art at one point. But he had a big collection of it at some point. Kind of screwed up this pipe placement. I think there was also another thing about Edward G. Robinson that was kind of famous, is he had some kind of a downfall during the McCarthy hearings, the House Un-American Activities Committee, and he was reviled for some reason. I think he gave names to the committee. I think that's what he did. He turned in people who he said were associated with the Communist Party. So So I've been working in this little tiny sketchbook, and I've been writing a lot in it. A lot of what I've been doing has just been more journaling for some reason than drawing, and just kind of recording how I feel, writing about that in conjunction with drawings of kind of everyday life. So it's probably not something I'm going to do right now with this particular set of drawings, because I don't have particularly strong feelings about Flaubert or Edward G. Robinson, but maybe I'll think of something, because as I'm drawing them, I am thinking about that. I'm actually more thinking about the quality of my drawing, which I'm not sure about. Something about these little tiny drawings. It's just weird. It's just weird to draw so small. Again, I should really put the camera like way up here so you get more of a sense of how tiny this thing is, because it's, yeah, that's a bit closer to how small it looks like to me. This tiny drawing. Are you doing a drawing? Are you thinking about Edward G. Robinson or Flaubert or anybody else you know whose birthday it is today? Maybe those of you with relatives with birthdays are drawing them. The nearest relative I have who had a recent birthday was my grandfather, and it was December 5th was his birthday. And it was actually his 110th birthday. He isn't alive anymore. He died 12 years ago when he was 98, but December 5th would have been his 110th birthday. So, and my mother's birthday's in a couple weeks. Okay, let me see who else we can draw, because I'm sort of not terribly interested in him, but I'm more interested in this guy, Frank Sinatra. Yup, old Blue Eyes it's his birthday, Frank Sinatra. How old was Frank? I think Frank Sinatra was born in 1909 also. Yeah, I think it was. But anyway, I used to love Frank Sinatra. I mean, I still love Frank Sinatra now, but when I was in college, I loved Frank Sinatra. And to the point where I think I had literally every Frank Sinatra album at one point. And believe me, there's a lot of Frank Sinatra albums. Some good, some amazingly great, and some kind of shockingly bad. His career had lots of twists and turns in it. And so for my 21st birthday, somebody took me to Carnegie Hall to see Frank Sinatra perform live. It's kind of like my dream come true. I'd always, I'd been such a fan of his for so long, and then suddenly I was going to get to see him in person singing, and in such a great venue also. And all I can say I'll say a few things about that evening, but the thing about it was kind of super depressing. To the point that I stopped listening to Sinatra altogether for a really long time. It was depressing because, he was sort of old. I think he was probably 70-ish at the time. But he was so detached. I think of him as being super expressive kind of singer. And suddenly he was just going through the motions of singing. It's sort of sad. He had a gold microphone. And women kept running up to the stage and giving him flowers. And he would just sort of take them mechanically and drop them on the floor. Without acknowledging them, really. He had no connection to his audience. And somehow for the next few years, whenever I would hear Sinatra anywhere, I would just think about that evening, and I would feel kind of blah. What they say, don't meet your heroes. In my case, I'm not sure I should draw them either. But anyway, yes, so. I don't know if any of you took a class that we taught at Sketchbook School early this year called People Drawing People. And one of the teachers, Felix Scheinberger, who I think is a great teacher and a great artist, he, and his drawings are very stylized, but he taught an important lesson during that class, which was, he said, when you draw a portrait of somebody, you should always write next to them who they are. So that way, if anybody looks at them, they don't wonder, what the hell is that? Who's that supposed to be? But if you write next to it, which I'm about to write, Frank Sinatra. So I see Deb has had a similar experience with Richie Havens. Yeah. It's funny, I mean, it must be very difficult to be somebody who's really well known, really famous for something, and they have to keep doing that something over and over and over again in public. Like that becomes their job, their life, this endless having to sing the same songs, having to tell the same jokes, having to, play the same kind of roles. It must be really tough. And it must wear them out to some extent. So, anyway. I'm going to draw Sinatra. I've never drawn Sinatra before. I mean, again, and I feel like I'm expressing some of my antipathy towards him in the way I'm drawing him, but I do still think he's great in a lot of ways. So let's just leave it at that. All right. I have one more person to draw. Now, the last of the birthday folks, Dionne Warwick. Let's see if we can give her the look of love, as it were. I'm going to draw her in a different kind of approach. Try drawing her in a more contoured way. Maybe I'll exaggerate her a bit more. She's beautiful. Particularly this photograph is very beautiful. Not sure how old she is in this picture, but she has had a long career. And she has long eyelashes, too. I mean, all that Burt Bacharach stuff she did, just so great. Should probably have found out when these people were all born, right? Wouldn't that be a responsible thing for me to tell you when they were born? So we could at least celebrate the specifics of their birthdays? I failed you. Maybe Google or Wikipedia can help. How are your drawings coming along? You finding this a challenge? It's so difficult sometimes to draw people who are well known because we think we know what they look like. And we have a vision of them in our minds that doesn't allow for a lot of fudging, There's a lot of disconnect between what we think somebody looks like and what our drawing makes them look like. And if we have a really strong impression of who they are, it's even worse. I think if you just draw anonymous strangers in the street, you don't worry that much about what people will think because nobody knows what they look like. But you draw Frank Sinatra, everybody knows what that guy looks like. Dionne Warwick, probably a lot of people do. So you have You have to resolve those differences. But now let's use Felix's trick. So I'm writing Dionne Warwick's name next to her face in the vain hope that it will strengthen the likeness. Is that what the term? Yeah, strengthen the likeness in your mind when you go, of course, I knew right away that was Dionne Warwick. I knew that was Frank Sinatra immediately. How? Well, it says Frank Sinatra right next to his face. So therefore, and I'm going to give it a little arrow, just so there's no question that that's who that is. Same here, Edward. Edward G. Robinson was always known as Edward G. Robinson. I don't know if there were other Ed Robinsons, probably. And that's what distinguished him, was the genus of his Edwardness. And then, of course, Gus Flaubert. And if you're wondering whether my drawing ability is limited by celebrities only, I'd like to show you something here, which is this drawing I did of myself. So yeah, I can draw myself as well as I can draw Gustave Flaubert. And then later on, I think I'll write something in here about birthdays. Maybe I'll just remind myself now to say birthday. Boys. And then over here I'll write all right, so there we have my overall page. You know, I think it would be useful to do some additional textural accents in between them. Do some stuff. I'm going to keep noodling at these. Maybe I'll share them with you later on after I've had a chance to completely noodle. Thistle shares my my experience. No one will look at my drawing and think Sinatra. Well, fair enough. Let's see who else. Oh, Ann Sinarski says that Dionne Warwick is 79. Well, she looks great. Didn't I advise against drawing famous people? In case you're wondering why I would advise that, case in point. Yes, let me just see if there's any other questions or comments in there. Edward G. Robinson, and 1915, and is a veritable encyclopedia. Yes, so that's when Sinatra was born, 1915. I was right. It's not 1909. So yes, well, I hope that you all. Let me just go back to my other camera. That was fun. It was nice to work in this little tiny book. To do some little tiny drawings. To have this little page. And now I've completed this side of the book. I can swap around and draw this side of the book. So I got very excited about the idea of this little tiny book, and then I thought, oh, but if I fill this, what will I do? Like, these came from Japan, I'll never have another one. And I thought, you know what, it really would not be difficult to make a little book like this. It's basically a sheet of paper that's been folded with some cardboard stuck on the end. So if you wanted a little tiny sketchbook like this, you could easily make one just yourself. All you need is a couple pieces of cardboard, some glue, some decent drawing paper, possibly one of those bone folders to kind of get your edges straight and sharp, creases sharp, because this thing is nicely made. It's a little tiny piece. And then you can carry it around with you wherever you go. So good. Well, that was fun. That was a nice-ish experience. Let's see. There's some reviews have come in of people's art. Big Shed says, my Flaubert was okay, edgy, a bit meh, Sinatra awful. I couldn't risk any more. Now here's what I would ask you, Big Shed. Do you think that the quality of the drawing is affected by your familiarity with the person's face? Because I would say Flaubert, who knows what he looks like? For all you know, that wasn't actually Flaubert at all. But you know that was Edward G. Robinson, and you certainly know that was Sinatra, and you probably know it was Dionne Warwick. So maybe that's the question: is maybe we should go back to doing. Remember a few months ago when I pulled out all those old mug shots from those Australian convicts in the 1920s, right? Those are all people who we had no idea what they looked like, and so the drawing self-supporting, self-standing. In some ways, it may have been a mistake to have written Frank Sinatra by my drawing, because then people would say, hold on a second, it doesn't look like Frank Sinatra at all. Whereas if it was just like a dude in a hat, who would know, hey, that's a nice drawing of a guy with a mustache. But then you write Gustave Flaubert, sacre Dieu, that's nothing what he looks like. You have insulted the memory of this great novelist. Madame Bovary will stand the test of time as one of the greatest novels of all time, and you have insulted him and besmirched his memory with your ham-fisted, dreadful drawings. Whereas if I'd never written Gustave Flaubert, I would never be suffering through this horrible trial in court of public opinion. Yes, so maybe next time we go back to anonymous subject matter. Let's see if any of you have any thoughts about that. Mitzi Bennick says, the results weren't great, but this was fun. And interestingly enough, I re-watched the mugshots last week, so I've had some portrait practice. Great. That's good. That is a fun thing to go back to. And, I think I gave the ways of, I gave the source of those pictures. I think I shared that. But if you just Google, don't Google mugshots, because if you Google mugshots, you'll see some horrendous things that you don't want to see. But if you do archival mugshots or 1920s mugshots or something like that, you might get it. But I think I gave the actual link, because there is one resource. It's this particular, it's actually a government program in Australia where they had this great collection of these old photos. All right. What pen do you use to draw in such a small sketchbook? Asked Cheryl. This is a Pigma Micron 005. 005. Micron. Pigma Micron 005. Yeah, it's the smallest kind of this pens you can get. They're not they don't last for long, these very fine microns. I mean, it would be better to do it with like a rapidograph that was super tiny, but I don't really have one going these days. I've been drawing primarily with these, for a long time I've been drawing with what are they called? These Japanese sort of flexible rubber, plastic nibbed pens, manga pens, sorry. Manga pens, and also fountain pens. I draw with a fountain pen quite a lot. Fountain pen, and I like a nice big fat nib, but because of this book, I've been drawing with this little tiny pen. So it's pretty good. I think I'll probably go back to, I've been really liking those Ecoline markers, or as I have found out they're actually called Ecoline. Not sure why. Maybe they're Italian. Let's see what else. So, let's see. Maria Schnabel says, that was great. Don't wait too long to have another Draw With Me session, please. I know, I do apologize that I haven't done these on a more regular basis, but I do have an idea for how to do them. Because let me just ask your opinion about this. I don't really want to give you drawing lessons. I don't want to because I've had like a few people stray into Draw With Me sessions, and they're like, that was the lousiest drawing lesson I've ever seen. It was boring, and the guy just talked a lot and did a sort of a lousy drawing. Fair enough. That's actually not what these things are. They're just Draw With Me. I'll do a bad drawing, you do one with me, we'll do it every week, we'll have a good time. So I'm trying to think of like what would be a way of coming up with what the idea was. So I'm thinking, and this may take a few more weeks, I'm going to put out a list of drawing prompts. And we'll have like 100 of them or 200 of them. And then each week we'll just work on one of them. And you'll have the list. And so you can work on them on your own, or we can work on them together. But we'll know, like, this week we're going to draw this, and we can come to it better prepared. I can come to it better prepared. You can. We can go, okay, this is the thing we're going to draw. Have it at the ready. Let's draw it. That's the whole point. And then we'll move on. Next week we'll do another one. And we'll see. I mean, things always come up when you draw something, right? There are always things to talk about, so we'll be doing that. But let's see. So let's see if that's good. So, and that way also I won't have to say to myself, what are we going to do this week? What? I've come up with so many ideas. I don't have any ideas this week. And then I'm just like, forget it. I just won't do it. That's not entirely my thinking. I have been kind of just had a bunch of stuff going on that have been really busy. And also, we have been so busy behind the scenes at Sketchbook School working on stuff for next year that is going to be insane. Really insane. I mean, basically we're doing what I'm calling blowing up the school. So we're blowing things up and changing a lot of things, reorganizing things. Things are going to be better, more interesting, more stuff, more experiences, more interesting things. There's a lot, and that's what we've been working on for months now. So it's all going to come together. But so yes, so this idea of somebody has put their finger on it, which is the drawing club idea. So that's what we'll make this. It's going to be a drawing club. It's Draw With Me, a drawing club. I'm just the guy here with the camera, but we're all in this together. And so hopefully you'll be doing some interesting drawings, and we'll get to share them. And hopefully you are a member of the Schoolyard, which is Sketchbook School's our sort of social online community social network platform thing. If you don't know what it is, let me know, and we'll see if we can get you in there. We're going to be letting more people in. It's been very, very restricted, the Schoolyard, and we're going to open it up more. But even if you're not in the Schoolyard and you don't really care about that, and you want to still share with it, you can share it on social media, Instagram or Facebook, and just put hashtag Draw With Me. One word. One very long word that's actually made up of 3 words. Draw With Me. Hashtag Draw With Me. Okay. What else? Let me just see if you have any other thoughts that I'm missing. I'm sorry. I'm just scrolling through your comments. Joanne says, I haven't drawn for 7 days and noticed by the time I got to Dion, the likeness had improved. It's good to keep drawing, obviously. That's a really good point, Joanne. Drawing is like any form of physical exercise, and you have neural connections between your brain, your eyes, your hands, and they get lazy, they get flabby and slack. And if you don't do it for a while, it's just there's less facility in it. You're creaky. You need to stretch. That's why a lot of times when you go to a life drawing class, they'll begin with really short poses, 1 minute poses, 2 minute poses, 5 minute poses, just to get you back in the groove. If you draw every day, even badly, you'll feel like you're ready to hit the road. And I haven't drawn for a couple days, and that shows in my work. But I agree, even in the course of one drawing session, half an hour, you can start to see things loosen up and get better. So Darlene says, bigger pictures to draw from. Yes, Darlene. So that's your choice. I can put big pictures, or I can have a shot of me drawing. So theoretically, one of the things that we could do, and there is actually a newsletter for Draw With Me, and that newsletter could have links. When we announce what a new thing is, we could have links to what the particular images are on Google that I'll be drawing from, if I'm drawing from images. But at other times, I'm hoping that we won't draw from photographs every week. It's not great. I just don't love drawing from photos. I feel really restricted, and I feel like we're comparing the drawing with the photo. So what I'm hoping instead is I would say something like, draw a colander, draw a glass of water, draw your cat, in which case you can just go and find it. But so, or you can always feel free to Google your own picture of Dionne Warwick. What else do we have here? Could deep dives be part of the club? For instance, I'm doing a month-long dive into drawing hands. Interesting idea. So we could have a theme that we pursue over the course of a month. So we could draw a month of drawing people, a month of drawing plants, a month of drawing cross-hatching, those kinds of things. Cool. Again, maybe we need to have a group for Draw With Me in the schoolyard. Or is there one? No, there isn't. There's just a tag. But we can have one there, or you could even tag it in the schoolyard, and then we could start a discussion about where we could go with this. Annette says she prefers not to be prepared. Just jump in. Like, what are we going to do today? Great. I think the idea, the core thing is really, let's draw on Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Let's just get together and draw. We'll figure it out. Doesn't really matter what we're drawing, right? So let's see. Jeannie Hexenberg says, since I took the first course at Sketchbook School in April, I draw every day. That's fantastic. That's the way to do it. That's how you get better, or you get freer, you get more confident, because you do it all the time. So there's lots of different things that we can do together, and I'm going to try to be more present doing this. As I said, we've just been going through an awful lot of work, and I've also had things in my family that were kind of tough to deal with that we've been going through, and we are hopefully coming out of the woods on all that, so there's more free time to draw. And also here we are on the holidays. So you're probably busy with your family and stuff, but the holidays are also a good time to just do little incremental drawings. You're with your family, take a break. Go off for 15 minutes and do a drawing. You're traveling somewhere, sitting on the plane, sitting in the airport, do a little drawing. And again, that's kind of the benefit of having this ridiculously small sketchbook, is you just pull it out and go like, let me just do a little drawing. And there's something so insignificant about this, right? It's like, it's obviously doesn't have any other purpose but just doing and having fun. So try and make it easy on yourself by making it casual. A long series of casual exercises is better than a big formal, I'm going to lock myself away for 3 hours in a workshop kind of thing. Just integrate it into your daily life, and you will find that it just becomes more, well, as Cheryl says, spontaneous. It's just spontaneous. So, all right. So I'm glad that we got this chance to get together today. Let's do it again next Thursday, barring some horrible eventuality. We've also discussed moving the time to other times, but in the end, it seems like 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time works for the largest number of people. I know it doesn't work for everybody, and if it doesn't, well, to answer Pegrit Harrison's question, if we miss the live draw Thursday on noon, can we catch the video later? Absolutely. It's here on YouTube for as long as, I don't know, for as long as the Alphabet Corporation is around and owns Google and YouTube and continues to not empty their servers. We will keep these here for your viewing pleasure. There'll also be, the comments are up there so you can see what other people have said. You can scroll past all these boring things that I'm saying now and just get to the drawing bit if you want to. So yeah, absolutely come back to these. And also if you really enjoyed one, watch it a second time. Why not? And you can do the drawing again and see. Because it's also kind of cool to come back to these 6 months later and see how you're doing now. Try the same exercise again. It doesn't have to be something different every time. I've drawn the same thing, as some of you may know. I've drawn the same thing over and over and over again. I drew my cup of tea every morning, 7 o'clock for months. The same cup with basically the same tea at basically the same time over and over again. Not necessarily to get particularly good at drawing cups of tea, because really there's not a huge market for that, but just to have the habit, to have that time with myself to say, this is when I draw, this is me for me time, and this is my meditation, my relaxation. So I'll see you next Thursday here in the Zen monastery of drawing with me, and we'll come together. We will say, let us draw. We'll take out our tiny sketchbooks and our super fine pens. Who knows? By next week, I might have filled up the sketchbook and I'll be coming with some giant, like I might draw on that wall behind me with a huge brush. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where we're at, see where you're at, and namaste, as they say. I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.